When you look at a malignant narcissist, it goes a layer deeper than that. To a malignant narcissist, the rules don't apply to them. They don't feel like they have to play by the same rules as you and I. Hi, this is Jim Brillon. Welcome to my YouTube channel where we talk about all things mental health. Today I'm going to be talking about a specific form of narcissism called malignant narcissism. There's been a lot of interest on the TikTok channel and Instagram channel of people wanting to know more about different forms of narcissism. So this is going to be an exploration of what a malignant narcissist is. As always, I invite you to subscribe to the videos. If you find them helpful, sign up for notifications and we can keep you posted of when new videos come out. So the underlying traits of narcissism are across the spectrum are things like grandiosity. That's this overinflated sense of your self-importance and your sense of self, that the rules don't apply to you, excessive need for admiration, lacking in empathy, and kind of preoccupations with fantasies of success and power, a sense of entitlement, and kind of an arrogant or haughty behavior towards other people, and envious of other people, and believing that other people are envious of you. Those are sort of the hallmark traits of narcissism. When you look at a malignant narcissist, it goes a layer deeper than that. And if you look at the word malignant, it's mal is the root of it, and that means bad, right? And you think of, like, in terms of, you hear that word malignant in terms of different kinds of cancers, right? Those are really aggressive, really dangerous levels of cancer. And that's what a malignant narcissist is also. It's a narcissist who is also dangerous and can actually border on psychopathy. And I'll talk more about the differences between a psychopath and a malignant narcissist. But they do have these qualities of being coercive and extremely controlling and often cruel. And they can actually take pleasure in their cruelty. And you start to see what are also the markers for domestic violence and abusive relationships in a malignant narcissist. So we're looking at narcissistic personality disorder, but then there's also this element of psychopathy, which is the willful disregard for other people's feelings, even personal boundaries. And this is where it starts to become really dangerous, because to a malignant narcissist, the rules don't apply to them. They don't feel like they have to play by the same rules as you and I. And they're motivated by power. Power and control are the big motivators. And basically their pleasure kind of overrides anything that you might want. There are some reasons that people who are in relationships with malignant narcissists get trapped in those relationships. And part of that is the intensity that they bring. They can be very, very intense people, and they can be very sexual. And sometimes people are really attracted to that intense sexual energy in a relationship until it starts to show its ugly side. This intensity is also one of the reasons that a lot of malignant narcissists can be very successful, because in a lot of ways our culture promotes that kind of intensity, and that what's thought of as like a superficial charm. They come across as being super confident, and there's almost a swagger that they have, and that's attractive to a lot of people. I think when it comes to learning how not to get yourself into a relationship with a narcissist, that swagger and uber confidence should actually be a red flag. Another thing that's present in a malignant narcissist is something that's called egocentric aggression. What that means is, egocentric means that it fits your concept of yourself. It's not something foreign to you. So in other words, you don't see a problem with it, and it's actually, a benefit in your mind. And that's this super aggressiveness that a malignant narcissist can have. They can border on being sadistic, and sometimes they are sadistic. They have really an absence of conscience. And if you look at that lacking of empathy in various forms of narcissism. Most narcissists, they all lack empathy, but most of them, on some level, they can tell when they're doing something that's wrong. They can tell that they're doing something that's hurting somebody. They may not care all that much, but a malignant narcissist, they don't care at all. And they really don't have much of a conscience, which is why they can get away with the things that they do. And it's also one of the reasons that they're rewarded in the culture. These can be people that they have a very cold and cool demeanor about them, and they can do the most ruthless things and not have any problem with it. So you look in the corporate world and the political world, these are people that are actually promoted. They're the people that sometimes are brought in to do the mass layoffs and all that stuff that the owners or the management of the company don't have the heart to do. Another thing that you see in a malignant narcissist is something that starts to border on paranoia, and it can actually turn into paranoia. And it starts to get a little confusing because it can start to resemble a covert narcissist, because a covert narcissist is going to have some paranoia. They're going to think that people are always out to get them because they don't recognize, the narcissist, the covert narcissist thinks nobody recognizes, how wonderful I am, and people are always trying to get an advantage over me. Now, with a malignant narcissist, some of that paranoia could actually be justified, because they've really screwed over a lot of people. They've hurt a lot of people, and eventually there might be people that are coming out to get you. And there might be, laws that people are finally looking at enforcing because you've broken the laws, because you don't believe that they apply to you. So when you look at malignant narcissism, there's a constellation of symptoms in psychology that often apply here, and that's something called the dark triad. These are three symptoms of mental illness, really, that come together often in this malignant form of narcissism. And that dark triad is narcissism, psychopathy, and something called Machiavellianism. Narcissism, we talk a lot about what that is. Psychopathy is the lack of conscience altogether. It's this is also where some of the charm comes from, that exploitative nature. Somebody with psychopathy, they can be very cool and charming, but it's a superficial charm. They're not charming as in Prince Charming, I'm lovable and I want to take care of people. It's all very kind of superficial. It's on the surface. And Machiavellianism is that trait where somebody is obsessed with their superficial, again, reputation. It's their superficial charm and their confidence, their swagger. But they're also able to plot and scheme and come up with intensely thought out plans to gain power or control over somebody, to undermine somebody where they don't even know that that's happening. It's sort of like playing chess with other people. You see this a lot when you look in the culture. You see it in political leaders, and not just our culture, but throughout the world. You look at political leaders that are ruthless, only concerned with themselves. They project, and that's another calling card, so to speak, of the malignant narcissist, is that they control people with fear, and their main defense is projection. So what that means is that they are going to accuse other people of the things that they're doing. It's a way to deflect and try to gaslight people into believing that I'm actually the victim. People are taking advantage of me. That's another similarity to a covert narcissist, because a covert narcissist will play the victim. They have kind of a poor me attitude that, I've never been given the breaks that I needed. People are, taking advantage of me. Nobody ever does anything for me. But the malignant narcissist will play the victim card in a very different way. They're going to be the victim anytime that they don't win. If they don't win, it's because somebody cheated. And basically using this projection where they're always projecting their stuff onto other people. Anytime you hear an accusation, that's actually confession. And you start to recognize this in a malignant narcissist. A malignant narcissist can really easily get caught up into conspiracy theories, not like the run-of-the-mill conspiracy theories, where people believe in all kinds of irrational ideas, but that people are plotting conspiracies against them, when in actual fact, that's what they're doing towards other people. And they really demand loyalty and obeisance. They want you to obey them. That's the way that they shore up their self-esteem, and they overcome their insecurities, because deep down inside, like all narcissists, they're intensely insecure people. And they want loyalty and obedience from people. I set the rules, you follow the rules, and my rules are different from me than they are for you. Now, when you look at the origins of narcissism, this is the part that gets really difficult interpersonally, because people become narcissists often because there's some trauma that happens in their life, right? There's attachment failures. Maybe they have an overly aggressive or mean caretaker. They're overindulged materially, but they're underindulged emotionally. And people develop narcissistic personalities often because, they're neglected, they're abused. And that's really sad. And it's also one of the reasons that people kind of get hooked into relationships with them. So when you look at the effects that trauma have on anybody, and particularly with narcissists, it's really easy to feel sorry for them, because you think, well, they wouldn't be this way if those things hadn't happened. And that's true. At the same time, trauma does not excuse behavior, right? And it becomes a really difficult situation, because a narcissist, particularly a malignant narcissist, that those behaviors are so egocentric, they're so a part of themselves that they don't think they have a problem, and they are not willing to do the work. So your empathy and your feeling sorry for them has to end at the behaviors that are hurting you and hurting other people. It's a really, really difficult thing to say, that you can feel sorry for these people, but at the same time, you can't excuse their behaviors. And that's something that's very different in narcissism, is that they're not willing to do the work, and they continue to abuse people and really kind of burn through relationship after relationship after relationship. A couple of other differences between a psychopath and a malignant narcissist. Now, the way we understand psychopaths is that there's something biologically very different in their brains that has been there since birth. So we think in terms of, psychopaths are born, narcissists are created, and there's this mutual relationship between a temperament that a narcissist is born with, and then some of the environmental factors that lead them to develop a form of narcissism. A narcissist, when they're under stress, a malignant narcissist will blow up. They'll go into a narcissistic rage. If they get caught at something, they're going to project, and they're going to get angry, and they're going to play the victim. But a psychopath, they don't blow up when they get really stressed, because they're resistant to stress. They've got a very cold, kind of a very calculating approach to things, which is why they make very good underworld spies and criminals, because they don't react that way. It's almost like their blood is cold. They don't blow up when they get stressed out. So it can make it really difficult to be in a relationship with someone like this. And when it comes to being in a relationship with a malignant narcissist, really the best way that you can cope with that kind of relationship is to get out of it. It really is. Because here's the thing, they don't get better. It's not going to change. And for lots and lots of reasons, people have a really hard time getting out of a relationship with a malignant narcissist. And I understand that. There might be financial reasons. Maybe, you're so afraid because they've implanted that fear in you. Maybe you're so undermined emotionally that you can't trust yourself. You've become so isolated. There's lots of reasons. But if you decide to stay in a relationship with a malignant narcissist, or you have to stay in a relationship with a malignant narcissist, you have to understand that the patterns are not going to change. So you have to do everything that you can do to cope. And that means looking at some of the confusion and the way that you blame yourself and starting to unlearn some of that gaslighting. It also means developing a support system for yourself. You have to surround yourself with healthy, loving people that have your back. And it gets really tricky in these relationships because how do you tell in your world, like, who's a loving, supportive person and who's a flying monkey that's been co-opted by the narcissist? So you've got to really, really pay attention to those things and figure out, who can I turn to? Who can I trust? Who can I talk with? And you have to talk with people, because when you hold it all in and you just try to manage it all internally, it just gets increasingly overwhelming. So those people that are enablers, you have to disengage from them. So this is where loss comes in again, over and over again with narcissistic abuse, is there's the loss that I don't really have the love and vulnerability that I want in a relationship. And if you leave the relationship, it hurts and you feel the loss from that person, but you also feel a loss from your social support system, because a lot of those people have become enablers. People stay in relationships with malignant narcissists because of the fear and the threats and the actual violence. And there's ongoing exploitation. That's one of the markers of a malignant narcissist, is they're extremely manipulative and exploiting of people. If you're ready to get out of a relationship with a malignant narcissist, you have to be very, very careful. You have to protect yourself first and foremost, because this is the most severe form of narcissism that can become dangerous. You have to document everything, because there will probably be some legal issue that's going to come up. You have to recognize that a malignant narcissist is going to be extremely secretive. They're going to have all of their computers and any kind of information systems locked down so nobody can get into it. They're going to never leave their phone in a room where somebody could pick it up. They'll walk into the bathroom with their phone. They're extremely secretive, and they spend a lot of time, especially in the early part of the relationship, in the love bombing part of the relationship, getting and gathering information on you so that they can exploit you. And when they've compiled all that info, it's sort of like it's a deck of cards that they pull out the right card at the right time as a way to undermine you, keep you in control, or to keep you isolated. So if you are ready to get out of a relationship, be very, very careful. You have to think about protecting yourself first. Talk to people who have your back. Get some help and enlist a good therapist or support groups. You've got to keep that kind of quiet on the down low, because if the narcissist finds out about it, again, it's going to be a way that they can attack you. Like I say, the best way to cope with one of these relationships is to get out. But I know that there's lots of reasons why people can't. So it's a process, and you have to have compassion for yourself and take care of yourself. I hope these videos are helpful. If they are, please like and subscribe and get notifications, and let me know what you'd like to hear more about. Thank you.